Hello, in this short video we're going to try to understand better the difference between correlation and causation. Correlation and causation. So in this first problem it says a financial magazine conducted a survey and it showed that as one has more years of education, they tend to have a higher salary, right? So the more education seems like you're making more money. Can we conclude causation from this scenario? Okay, now it does show that when you have more years of education, you seem to have a higher salary. So there's a relationship here, and that relationship means that there is some correlation. There is correlation. Correlation is just the fact that there's some kind of relationship. Now, that relationship, though, actually correlation is more specific. Specifically means linear relationship. But whatever, there's a correlation here because it does seem that more education gives you a higher salary. Now, is it causal? Does the fact that you have more education mean that you're automatically going to have a higher salary? And that is not the case. There is not necessarily causation. For example, there's many different explanations, right? Maybe the jobs that make more money just take more years in school. And so therefore going to school for more years doesn't cause the higher salary. It's the jobs associated with higher salaries tend to take more time to complete. So causation means that one directly causes the other, and we don't know for sure in this situation. More studies would have to be run. So the correct answer is that there is correlation, but there's not necessarily causation. We would have to do further studies. Okay, let's try this again. What about if the local Ralphs at Ventura and Coldwater collected some sales and found that when they changed the price of milk, it did not imply that people purchased more or less milk. So raising the price or lowering the price didn't change the need, the demand for the milk. Can we conclude causation from this scenario? And in this case, there is not even correlation because it isn't like when you raised prices, the demand went down in this particular scenario. They're literally saying that the change in price did not imply people would purchase more. So it seems like there's actually no change that is occurring here. Nothing is changing anything in this scenario. So that's already a bit of a shock. Let's underline that. They found change in price did not imply any kind of difference. So there's certainly no correlation, which means that there cannot be any causation because there's not even correlation. There is no correlation, so no causation. Okay, correlation is just this relationship. Again, this relationship has to be linear technically, but let's not worry about that at this stage. Causation requires some experimentation, requires us to analyze things more deeply. Okay, let's pause the video. You pause the video and you try this fifth one on your own here. Dr. Helston ran a study with his students by asking them their exam score and how much time they spent on Netflix in the past week. He found that students who spent less time watching Netflix tended to have higher scores on the exam. Can we conclude causation? So pause the video, take your best first shot at this. Do you think there's correlation and or do you think there's causation? And assuming you paused the video and tried this on your own, did you come to the right conclusion? Since less time on Netflix tended to give higher scores on exams, there is a relationship here. There is correlation. We do see some kind of relationship going on here. Now, is it true that spending less time watching Netflix caused somebody to have higher scores? Well, can you imagine somebody not owning Netflix? Would they automatically get a 100% on the exam? Right? This is not necessarily causation. So maybe there's causation. Who knows? There is not, though, necessarily any causation. In order to determine causation, more studies would need to be done. We would have to do this with different classes, different groups of students, and see if in all cases watching less Netflix caused there to be higher scores on exams. So again, no, there is correlation, not necessarily causation.